I was directed to an older list of questions that apparently atheists can't answer well. Let's crack it open and see what I can't answer. There are basic worldview questions. 1. Origins. Where did life and humanity originate? Life? We don't know. Yet. We have several hypotheses, but for whatever reason, self-replicating life? We don't know. Yet. We have several hypotheses, but for whatever reason, self-replicating molecules formed, which is the starting point for life. Jeremy England's work points towards the second law of thermodynamics, hypothesizing that self-replication was a way to deal with absorption and dissipation of heat. It's gaining acceptance as a possible explanation, but we may never know what really caused life to begin. As for humanity, it appears that we originated in Africa when our ancestors came down from the trees. We had to evolve into intelligent, tool-dependent creatures we are in order to survive. And look how we're doing now. We've managed to spread across the earth and fill ourselves with existential dread, while our closest relatives are content to spend their lives foraging and fornicating. Gee, I wonder which branch is more content. But even if we can't answer where life, or even humanity, came from, that doesn't mean we should slot any answer to fill the void. I don't know is a perfectly valid response if we don't know something. 2. The problem. Why is there suffering, sickness, and death? Because things simply don't last, especially our, quite frankly, frail bodies. We are adrift in an uncaring universe, and things eventually break down. As Yeats said, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Everything, including us, breaks down and falls apart, and other organisms, like viruses and bacterium, will evolve in an attempt to take advantage of our vulnerabilities. And eventually, we all will pass away. I don't know about you, but that makes me want to enjoy the life I have now and do what I can to make things better, because this is the only life we have. Which brings us to 3. The solution. What is the cure for man's suffering, especially his existential loneliness? For me, the cure to such existential loneliness is to make the best of the world we find ourselves in. If possible, work to make the world better for the people in it, and try to reduce the suffering of others, or, at the very least, not deliberately increase anybody's suffering if it can be helped. Yes, I know I'm not going to be here forever, so I need to make the most of the time I do have. I spend it with my friends and my family, and try to leave the world a little better than when I found it. Life is fleeting, so enjoy the time we do have. Questions of meaning and value. 4. How does an atheist assign meaning to human activity? Is all meaning subjective, or do some activities have self-evident and objective worth and meaning? If so, what are those activities, and how do you arrive at their value? Assigned meaning and value is subjective. What I think is valuable, others may see as a waste of time. These videos have value to me, but to many others, especially my loving and supportive family, they're a waste of time and energy.
Such a waste of time and an embarrassment to the rest of us. Especially when you make me do cameos like this.
5. Are humans of more intrinsic value than animals? Why or why not? Humans, like anything else, have value that is given to them by others. I give human beings value over other animals because I have more empathy towards other people than I do towards other life forms. Humans who evolved the ability to care about each other had a better chance to work together and thrive over those who didn't, passing on that ability. In general, I give value to others because I value myself and can see the similarities to myself and other humans, not because it's intrinsically there. 6. How does an atheist determine what is moral or immoral, right or wrong? Is there any objective standard or principles? To determine what is right or wrong, I mostly use the harm principle. Will a decision or action cause harm to another? If it does, will that harm be outweighed by any good that will come out of it? If an action will harm others without any corresponding good, then I consider it to be immoral. The problem is different people have different ideas of what constitutes harm. If we look at the LGBT community, some people think that denying the ability for a couple to live and marry as they please harms them, while others, for example, say that allowing people to go against God's word is a bigger harm to the world. Another subject that we can use as an example, one that I know divides my subscribers, is firearm control. If we look at it, some people think that the widespread proliferation of firearms will cause more damage to the population at large, while others think that the removal of their freedoms to own such weaponry is more harmful than the possible use of those firearms. Questions of worldview. 7. What type of government does atheistic philosophy translate into? How does it understand the relationship between man and government? What type of government structures flow from an atheistic worldview? Does it merely rely on someone else's system of thought, like the assumptions of naturalistic science? Atheistic reasoning in itself does not translate into a specific branch or form of government. Karl Marx and Ayn Rand were both unbelievers, but came to very different conclusions on what political role the people in government should take. Personally, I think a light socialist government which allows people the majority of freedom while providing a social safety net with things like health care and regulations on necessary things like food safety and protection, along with projects that help the citizens, like roads and schools, is the best way to go. But none of that has anything to do with my lack of belief in any kind of a deity. An atheist view on the role of government does not necessarily rely on somebody else's system of thought. The two thinkers I mentioned before came with their own ideas on how government and society should run, but can be influenced by other thinkers. As for your claims about naturalistic science, the conclusions that scientists come up with are not assumptions. Theories need evidence to be accepted, and are not merely assumptions, which by definition have no proof backing them. 8. How does atheism view religions and religious faith? What about metaphysics? Is atheism purely materialistic and naturalistic? Personally, I see religions as social structures that have no rational basis for their foundation, and faith, in this sense, is a belief in something that there is no evidence for. Atheism doesn't mean disbelief in all supernatural or immaterial things, only a lack of acceptance of an intelligent divine being involved in the creation of the universe. There are atheists who believe in souls, or ghosts, or other phenomena there is no evidence for, but not a divine creator. The majority of atheists don't, and only accept or believe things they have evidence for. But that isn't all of them, and is a disservice to say they don't exist. 9. Who are the authoritative writers, books of atheism? What are the central tenets of atheism? And if they have a greatest commandment, what is it? For example, arguably, Christianity's is, love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. The central and, quite frankly, only tenet, and we are really stretching the meaning of that word to its breaking point here, of atheism is there is no reason to accept the claim of the existence of a divine being. That's it. Everything else atheists believe is a personal choice, and, like the taste of Soylent Green, will vary from person to person. You seem to be conflating atheism with a religion. It can be seen as a religious stance, insofar as, since there is no evidence pointing to an intelligent creator being, there is no reason to follow any religions that claim one, but it is not, in itself, a religion. There are no commandments of atheism, let alone any greatest one. Questions of revelation. 10. What happens after we die? As far as I know, our brain activity, the chemical reactions that make me, well, me, will be gone. I currently don't want to die. As long as I'm able to take pleasure in life, I want to keep going and enjoy it. I don't want that to end, but I don't fear being dead, because as far as I know, once I'm gone, there will be no more me left to experience it. Anyway, another list of questions completed. As always, if any of you out there come across anything you think I'd enjoy going over, please send it my way.